Welcome to another episode of my complete history of Robins. This episode is all about Tim Drake.
Hi, I'm Ben and you're watching Batarang to the Butt.
Tim. Tim Drake is the third person to take on the Robin identity. If Dick was the acrobat and Jason was the angsty one, then Tim is the detective and all-round good boy. He's the character who focused more on the mental side of crime fighting rather than just the physical. Even his origin includes an impressive bit of detective work. He was created by Marv Wolfman and Pat Broderick, and he first appeared in a cameo in the storyline Batman Year 3 in Batman issue 436 in August of 1989. However, it was several issues later when we met modern day Tim in a storyline called A Lonely Place of Dying, which crossed over between the main Batman comic and New Titans. This time, he first appears as a mysterious and shadowy figure who seems to be tailing Batman. We soon find out that he knows who Batman is, and he knows who Nightwing is. A few issues later, and we discover that Tim Drake wants to reunite Batman with Dick Grayson following the death of Jason Todd, the second Robin. It turns out that as a young boy, Tim was in the audience the night that Dick Grayson's parents were murdered. They even had a photo taken together before the show. Tim was very excited to be there, but thanks to the tragic incident, he would never forget that night. In fact, he would often have nightmares about the flying Graysons falling to their untimely deaths. In the following months, he managed to deduce the identities of Batman and the original Robin through their following exploits. One night, CCTV footage of Batman and Robin fighting the Penguin showed up on the news. A specific flip that Dick had performed on that fateful night at the circus confirmed all of Tim's suspicions. Robin was the only person who had ever been able to replicate that quadruple flip that he remembered so fondly. Tim strongly believes that Batman needs a Robin, and so when he catches up with Dick Grayson, he attempts to convince him to don his original costume and identity to be there for Batman. Tim believes that Batman needs someone to watch his back and to keep him from going over the edge. And in the aftermath of the second Robin's death, Batman had been losing his touch, and he was often dealing with criminals with excessive and unnecessary amounts of violence, something which Tim will continue to be against throughout his crime-fighting career. Batman had not been coping well with the loss of his partner, and that's why Tim tracked Nightwing down and wants him to become Robin again, so that he can be there for Batman. Dick refuses to become Robin again, but he does want to help Batman, so he heads off to help as Nightwing. But unfortunately, both he and Batman get taken down by Two-Face. Tim is left in the Batcave waiting patiently to hear from either of them. But it gets late, and so finally he has had enough. He puts on the Robin costume himself and heads off to save Batman and Nightwing. He saves the original dynamic duo, but Batman is not happy. He is still upset about the death of Jason, and so it takes him a while to come around to the idea of another Robin. But Tim gives a pretty good speech. He says, "I don't know why you decided to wear that costume, but it makes you a symbol. Just as Robin was a symbol, or Superman, or Nightwing, or the policeman who wears his uniform. And this isn't just a symbol of the law, it's a symbol of justice. When one policeman is killed, others take his place because justice can't be stopped. And Batman needs a Robin, no matter what he thinks he wants." Tim is backed up by both Nightwing and Alfred, which is why Batman finally accepts Tim as the new Robin. And so Tim receives a modern redesign of the Robin costume and is sent to train abroad with numerous experts, helping to refine his martial arts abilities. The story of Tim's training abroad was told in the first ever Robin solo comic. This is also when he first began using his bow staff. Neither of the previous Robins had really used weapons, but Tim and his bow staff become an iconic combination. He is also trained by Alfred, Bruce, and Nightwing. One big thing that set Tim apart from the other two Robins was that he did not start out as an orphan. While Tim's parents were a bit negligent, they were still very much alive. Tim is the son of Jack and Janet Drake, who were almost as wealthy as Bruce Wayne. Unfortunately, near the end of Tim's training, they were holidaying abroad, but they were kidnapped and poisoned. Batman arrives on the scene, but he's too late. Tim's mother dies, and his father falls into a coma. Bruce fears that this will set Tim off on a spiral of anger, just like Jason. But Tim proves himself by saving Batman and a journalist from the Scarecrow. When Jack awakens from his coma, it is revealed that he has been paralysed from the waist down. During his time in the coma, Tim had been staying with Bruce Wayne, and therefore he had been spending a lot of time with Batman. Jack isn't overly happy with all of this, and tries to limit Tim's time with Bruce, but it rarely works out. Also, over time, Jack would fall in love with his new carer, and with his constant therapy, he finally regained the ability to walk, and the two would eventually get married. Tim is a great Robin. Of all of them, he is the most analytical and intellectual. A lot of his initial internal monologues touched on his insecurities. He constantly questions whether or not he is good enough to take on the role, but over time he would prove to everyone that he was more than good enough. In the late 90s, the Nightfall event took place, which saw the introduction of Bane, and then we famously see Bane breaking Batman's back. After Batman's replacement, Azrael, beats him up and kicks him out of the Batcave, Tim goes solo for a while. Tim had already received 3 miniseries, but spinning out of this event, he became the first Robin to get his own ongoing solo series. During his many adventures, he also founded Young Justice, alongside Impulse and Superboy, a team of youthful superheroes not too dissimilar to the Teen Titans. However, the original Teen Titans had grown up and were still operating, but now they were just known as the Titans, so Young Justice was the alternative at the time. In later years, Young Justice would disband, but then Tim would join a newer iteration of the Teen Titans. Tim also does pretty well with the ladies. He actually had a few romantic relationships, but the main one was with Stephanie Brown, the daughter of the criminal Clue Master. Stephanie has had quite a story herself, going from Spoiler to Robin to Batgirl, then back to Spoiler again. And yes, you did hear me right, she had to take on the role of Robin when Tim temporarily quit. Unfortunately, Tim's father had finally discovered that he was Robin, which meant that Tim had to retire for a while. This retirement was only temporary though, as he returns to the role pretty quickly. And then, tragically, his father is killed during the Identity Crisis event. Digger Harkness, aka Captain Boomerang, was hired to kill Jack. Following another big DC event called Infinite Crisis, most comics took a year-long jump into the future. In this 1 year later event, we found that Tim Drake has taken on a new costume, a red and black costume, which is in memory of his good friend Superboy, who had died in Infinite Crisis. It is also around this time when Batman, Bruce Wayne, officially adopts Tim Drake as his own. And that's the status quo of Tim Drake right up until an event called Final Crisis, which would see Batman die. But I'm going to get into the repercussions of that event in a whole other video. And so, stay tuned because there's one more Robin and still plenty more adventures to tell you about in the complete history of the Robins. If you've enjoyed this video, then please leave a like my Facebook page Batarang to the Butt, and even share this to educate your friends. If you have any video requests about characters or topics that you want me to break down, then please leave it all in the comments below. And thanks for watching.